Welcome to Art Talk with April, Season 2. I'm April Harris of Inked April, located in Birmingham, Alabama. This season we'll be talking with new artists and professional expert artists. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to Art Talk with April. Today I have the awesome Stephanie Kirkland from Humanity Studios in Huntsville, Alabama. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about what kind of art you make, and then also tell us about your studio.
Okay. I tend to do a lot of colorful art. The name of my studio is Humanity, and it's spelled H-U-E because I focused on the hues, the colors. I like things that are vibrant and bold. I do some somewhat abstract art from time to time, but I host paint parties. So I also do a lot of art that is simplistic that we can add some flair to so that people are able to walk away with a project that they can be proud of.
Yeah, and that's some of the projects are behind you right there, right? And your paintings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. That is so cool. What would you say are some of the events that you have at Humanity Studios? Like, what are some of the themes of the parties and stuff?
Every month I try to do a couple of things. I try to do a family night. So we'll do something where people can bring their kids. I mean, kids of all ages. I've had kids as young as like 2 and 3 come in here and, do their thing on the canvas, and that's always fun. So little kids, big kids, all the kids. So we do family night. I will do girls' night out. That one's always something that's kind of sassy. There's a lot of singing and dancing. We do date night because date nights matter. You got to make time. And so we'll do like a couples canvas so that it'll be like 2 pieces that'll work together most of the time is what I'll do for date night. And then outside of that, I choose themes that kind of go along with the season or what I know is going on, whether it's pop culturally or, whether it's just a trend or whatnot. So sometimes it could be as simple as like Beyonce's birthday is coming up. so there will be B-Day, So it could be as simple as that. But I just try to put things out there that I feel like people may want to be involved in and things that people are able to look at and say, oh, okay, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's really fun. And then you also let folks like plan private parties and stuff like that, like birthdays and showers and all those things.
Yes. And they're able to come in and do like a regular birthday party if they wanted to just like rent the space out and set up and do whatever they want to do. Or I'll host a party. Like last night, I hosted a birthday party and she invited her family and it was such a great time. Let's see. We've done baby showers. And again, it could be as simple as renting the space, or they want to do paintings that can like go in the nursery or something that's going to, you guess the gender of the baby and that sort of thing through the painting. So I've had all kinds of fun ideas.
That's fun. So I actually know Stephanie in real life. So tell us about like the beginning of your becoming an artist. Like, where did all of this come from? Did you start doing this when you were little and it grew from there?
Yeah, I was that child that got in trouble in school because I was drawing all over all my papers. I'm sure you relate. But started off drawing all over all my papers because my work was done. I needed something to do. And so it went from that to my dad getting me, it was like a big stack of copy paper. And he was like, draw on this, don't draw on your notebooks. And so kept on drawing. I got into comic book art for a while. Like I just wanted to mimic anything that was in the comic book so that I could understand. Well, I didn't realize this is what I was trying to do, but in retrospect, understand foreshortening and, dynamic posing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was that one girl that hung out with the boys with the comic books, I was just there for the art. But from there, I went to school at Auburn in Montgomery and majored in fine arts with my emphasis in graphic design. And from there, I did a little bit of art. Like I did my foundational art, but not a whole lot, honestly. And it wasn't until I came out of school and started playing around with chalk with you guys that I realized I had a bit more of a passion for art than I remember having. Because I mean, like as a kid, my parents bought me like that Bob Ross paint set. And I just knew I was everything because I had that, because I could turn on the TV and I could watch him paint his happy little trees and I could do it with him. So, but I soon remembered that oil painting was not my thing. And so I kind of, as an adult, I kind of transitioned from doing my chalk art to doing acrylic painting. And so as I kind of did more research into acrylic painting and started developing my style, I was like, I wonder if people want to paint with me. And so I just kind of threw it out there to a friend and like rolled around some ideas. And I'm sure you remember that because I was like, do you think? I don't know. Do you think? And so I decided to step out on faith and let's just throw a party and see what happens. And so my friend Mark was gracious enough to let me throw it at his nightclub. And so it was like great vibes and people were very curious. We had a good turnout for it. And that was the birth of Humanity Studios. And so I did pop-up parties for, I guess, 2.5 years. Before I think it was, about 2.5 years before I decided that I needed a studio. And even when I decided, I still felt like I was crazy. I was like, am I really about to do this? Like, really? And so I got my space at the beginning of, so I'm at least the 1st of February, not knowing what was on the horizon in our world. And so I like got my studio all painted and set up the way I liked it and had a soft opening. And the very next week there was COVID. So at that moment I had to learn how to pivot. And so I shifted into doing like take home kits because everybody was at home. And so I advertised it as like quarantine busting, like be productive during your time. And so thankfully that floated me through it until the doors were able to open back up and people were able to come back out. So it's been a journey. And so I've been here in the studio now for 2 years. Wow. And it doesn't even feel like it's been that long, but yeah.
Yeah, that was so scary, like for you, because it was like, having known you and all of this build up to finding what you like to do and deciding what you're wanting to make of it and what direction you're going in. And then, like you said, you were talking to me, my dog's like peeking out. Hello. You were talking to me about it and you were like going back and forth, should do this, and you were showing me different locations that you were looking at and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I'm sure you asked, several people and were like, really, I could see you contemplating it and kind of, turning it around in your head. And then you do it, which is so extremely brave, right? That's like the step that a lot of artists don't ever take. They get on the edge of it and then they just can't make that step. And then you do, and then it's COVID.
Right.
Like everything shut down. It was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? I mean, I don't know how you did it, but you made it happen. I mean, that is so fantastic. Right. I mean, I know you had to have been like, oh crap, what now? Like, what am I going to do? Because,
right.
But you managed it. I mean, it worked. You got it out there.
At that point, I was like, I have put my blood, sweat, and tears into this. Like, it's got to work. Like, I don't know what it is that I need to do, but like, I sat down and I just started like brainstorming. And one of my mentors, Michelle the Johnson, I watch her on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Clubhouse was a great big deal. And so I was on Clubhouse one day and she just kept saying, pivot, 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 pivot. Keep what you're doing, but pivot. And I was like, okay, what does that mean for me? And that's what it was. It's like, okay, you already do take home kits, but it's a secondary. Make it your primary and promote it.
Yeah.
And so I was throwing out everything I could. Like, I remember, like, right before Easter, I did like this super simple kit of you design. It was like a bunny silhouette and some eggs. And it's like, this was something that all ages could do, and you design whatever you want to design. But like, I threw that one out, and like, they kept me busy with just that Easter bunny situation, you know, and I'm thankful. Yeah. I'm thankful because I was like, okay, I may not be turning a profit, but at least the studio's paying its own rent. So that's all I can ask for right now until the doors can open back up.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to do what you have to do. And it's like, I think it's so awesome that you did that, because I saw other business owners in completely different industries than ours, and it was like they couldn't make the change to keep it going. It was like they froze. Okay, now we can't be open, and they didn't do anything. And it ended up really hurting their businesses because they couldn't think outside of the box and be creative about, okay, how can I keep something going, and using social media too, right? You use a lot of social media to get your information out there.
Like, I keep things on my website, but I push hard on social. Like, I know that they say Instagram is where you're supposed to be. And I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I have a bigger following on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so, I put it out on Facebook, tag a couple of people that I know are going to share it, and just let it go, and it would run itself the way I needed it to run itself. Yeah. And so it just worked out.
I feel like Facebook is more geared towards events and sort of like reminders and things like that too, because didn't you do like painting live or something like that at one point?
I did. You did? I did. It was actually, I did. It was, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. It was this one. Yeah. It was that wine glass one. And so I put out a supply list. It was a free event, and I did it with like the cheap acrylics that you get at Michael's. So nobody was having to invest a whole lot of money into it. It was something that everybody could participate in. And I put out the supply list and what they would need as far as paints and brushes and like small canvases, and told them just meet me on live, and it was fun. Yeah. It was something that everybody was able to do no matter where they were, because I mean, I've got friends everywhere, like my friends out in Texas and my friends in New Orleans and my friends in New Jersey were all able to participate because it was something that was virtual. Yeah. And so I took that and started doing like virtual date nights too, because I did a couple of those where I shipped some canvases to some people, and then those people that were local were able to just come in and pick up theirs. And I just remember I probably was too OCD about it, but I was like, you have to schedule your appointment for pickup. Do not just drop by here, because I didn't want people like passing each other, because I was like trying to keep everybody safe. And so I didn't want it to be a case of, oh, I got sick and blah, 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 So it's like, I wanted to make sure if you were here at 1, that next person wasn't here until like 1:30, so I got time in between. But had everybody pick up their stuff and shipped off some, and we just met on Zoom. Yeah. And so that was a whole lot of fun too, to see how the couples had set up their date nights too was really, really cool. Because some were as simple as, okay, we're on the coffee table in front of the sofa and the Zoom is running on TV, so we see you. And then there were some that were as elaborate as my cousin, of course. My cousin CJ set up his projector inside of his man cave and did like this big spread with like wines and cheeses. Like it was nice. It was really, really awesome. Nice experience. I loved it. I was like, okay. I guess this is how you do date night at home. And so it was really, really sweet because his wife didn't really know what was planned for the evening. She just knew he had something planned.
Oh,
and so
cool.
it was really, really fun. And, you know, of course, I love being able to see everybody's paintings at the end. And so for everybody to be able to hold up their paintings at the end and show me what they did, it was really, really fun.
Yeah. I mean, that is just so cool that you could take something that you would think you have to do it in person and then just turn it around and make it happen in a different format, you know? That is so awesome. I'm glad that you were able to do that. Because I was like, whew, oh, I'm getting nervous over here. I can't imagine what Stephanie's thinking.
And it was fun too, because since, you know, like normally if you're in the studio, I'm like walking around the studio and seeing what you're doing and that sort of thing. But because I wasn't able to do that and I knew I was going to have some dead time, I was asking relationship questions too. Like who does the most dishes? Who's the messiest? You know, and so then that starts a whole nother conversation and finger pointing and no, it's you.
What was that TV show in the 80s where it was like married couples and they would ask questions and then they would write down things?
They
would both show
it. It wasn't the dating game. It was like the
I can't remember, but I used to love
Newlywed Game. It's like the Newlywed Game or something like that. Yeah. It was like that.
You're like, I don't like that.
That was a whole lot of fun. Because there was one point where like all the girls kind of ganged up and was like, because you don't do laundry and blah, blah, blah. I was like, wait, this is not what this is. Bring it back in. Bring it back in.
Okay, guys, pay attention. Oh, that's so fun. Oh,
it was a whole lot of fun though. Yeah. But I like being able to connect with people, you know, and it's funny because you know how I am. I'm an extroverted introvert, whereas I like people sometimes. I like people when I'm out and about. Like when I'm out, I'm super social. I want to laugh it up. I want to talk to everybody. But once I get home, I am exhausted and I don't want my phone to ring. Yeah. You know, send me a text. I'll text you back, you know, but while I'm out, I love being able to see what other people are doing and then to be able to see like how art is playing into their life at that moment, you know, and making memories. Yeah. Like we did the kids paint class last Saturday. I'm calling it little brushes. I'm trying to get consistent with doing little brushes. Yeah. But I did one last weekend and it was popsicles and palettes. Yeah. And so the little girl's painting was a popsicle with a unicorn on top. And then the little boy's painting was a popsicle as a superhero with his cape. Yeah. And so that was just so much fun because with that party, I think my littlest one, Savannah is like 2 and she is a handful. All the way up to my biggest kid. Let's see, I think Alyssa is like 13 or something like that, you know, and then of course there's the adults, but it was just so much fun. And I love being able to do things like that because they're making memories, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Like I love that part about it. One of my friends, Crystal, she was able to bring her son and it was the very first time that he had painted. Wow. And he is super duper smart. Mm-hmm. Like he started kindergarten and they were like, no, put him in first. So he's he's that child. He's like already skipped a grade. So like he's talking to me about colors and he, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, this is turquoise. And he's like, may I have aquamarine? So you absolutely can. I love it though. You know, like he's pulling these names. He knows. He's like, okay, is that magenta? It is. Would you like some? You know, I love, love, love that. But he did his painting. He had a great time. And that's what it's all about. Like, those are the moments where, like, when I'm like, okay, am I crazy? Because I promise I ask myself that every week. Am I crazy for doing this?
What? No way.
But those are the moments that make me feel like it's worth it. You
Yeah.
know, like I have to make this work so that they have an outlet.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it too, it's like really introducing creativity and art to, younger generations. Like, I don't know what the school system is like in Huntsville and how much art they have, on a regular basis. But man, I mean, like, your studio could be that place where they experience that for the first time, and that's really awesome.
Yeah.
That could be
Because I mean,
life-changing.
I've talked to a couple of people that are here, and from what I understand, they have like their art teachers rotate, and so they'll see like 3 schools in a day. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, because someone was talking to me about being an art teacher, and it was interesting for like 10 minutes, and I was just like, no, because that's a whole nother can of worms,
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know about this. I was like, I'm probably just, y'all come over here.
Yeah.
Y'all come over here.
You would have had to do bus duty and like monitor the hall,
I don't want to do the teacher part. I just want to be in my classroom.
Yeah, really, right? I mean, like, you want to do the fun stuff. Oh my God.
Right. I just want to make. I don't want to do that part.
I don't want to give you guys grades.
Right. Telling everybody you did a great job.
Yeah.
How's your whole class happy? It's because they did a good job. That's how.
This is participation grades,
Yes. Because art is subjective and they gave their all. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you have so one of the things that I always thought of, being in that situation is, have you had anybody who really, when they came to your studio, they struggled to get started or to be confident in making something? Like, what happens when someone comes to the studio and they're like, they're coming to somebody's birthday party or something and they really want to be there, but then they're supposed to do a painting. What do you tell them? What happens?
Well, first, I always start every event off with my 2 rules. And I always tell them it's very important to pay attention, because rule number 1 is don't take yourself serious. It's just art. We're going to have some fun as we complete a project. And then rule number 2, if you're working on your project and you're not sure, throw your hand up and say, hey, Steph, I need some help. And I'll come over, we'll sort it out, and we'll act like nothing ever happened. And so that's how I treat every class. And so I have had some people that have come in like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, it's okay. And so I'll start them off with a small spot. Like, okay, we're going to just do a solid color right here. And I have walked up and had that one person that's just sitting there holding their brush. And I'm like, you got to make your first brush stroke. You got to do it. And so they're a little nervous about it. I'm like, I'm right here. Like, just pick it up and just go in this corner. It's going to be fine. And so once they get started, then they're like, okay. And then once I explain, like, there's nothing that you can mess up that I cannot fix. Once I tell them that, then it's okay. And so then they'll work their way on through it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are even professional artists who have trouble getting started sometimes, So then you have somebody who comes in and they're like, art's not really my thing, Yeah. I could see that being a thing where some people would feel uncomfortable. But what you're saying is that it's really about having fun and not being so serious about it, and just putting some color out there,
As I like to say, I put the art in party.
Yeah.
So, you come in, we're going to have a really good time, and we're just going to happen to make some art. And there's even been times where I've had guys that have come in and they're just like, I don't paint. And I'm like, that's fine. We're still going to work through it. And then at the end of the party, they realize, hey, I forgot that I used to like art. Imagine that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Those were the 12 and 13-year-old boys that used to draw, and then they got into sports. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know? And so they forgot that they liked art. They forgot they liked to draw. They forgot that they liked to paint. And then they get in and truly, truly enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like I've got two or three guys that I know offhand that they're the ones that will always buy the tickets for the events and bring their girls. Because normally it's the other way around. Where the ladies are buying the tickets and telling their guys, hey, we're going to paint. But those guys, they're the ones that are buying the tickets because they want to paint. Yeah. And they come in and do fantastic jobs.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got all kinds of different things. I mean, to me, it's not one of the great things about your studio is that it is so, I guess maybe diverse is the right word, because it's not geared towards like just women and just kids or just grown-ups. It's kind of got everybody covered. You know, there's some like really cool like guy stuff to make, but then there's also women can have their thing too, and it doesn't have to be like a guy at a women's event or studio or whatever, and they're like, I don't really want to draw flowers, you know? Right. Like, I don't want to paint flowers. I don't want to do anything with this.
Surprisingly, last year when I did, what did I call it? It was like, Who's the Greatest? And it was Kobe and Michael Jordan. When I did that one, I had a bunch of guys, but I almost had more girls. Wow. And it was so much fun because, you know, I love some good trash talking. And so I'm asking questions throughout the night to figure out who's really the greatest, who has the highest stats, who did this, who did that. And they started trash talking and it was hilarious. But everybody finished their paintings and they all turned out good. And so, you know, it's just fun to do things like that, you know.
And you're also doing stuff, you kind of make it an environment to have fun and relax, because people can bring their own alcohol, right? And you guys have music and stuff like that going, and it kind of makes it real relaxed, and people can just have fun and be there, right?
Makes it super, super laid back.
Yeah. And that's really how it should be. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people like when they're in school in art, is that it's kind of the laid back class. You know? It's kind of the class where you can kind of just be whatever. You don't have to be, you know, constantly taking notes or doing math or something like that. You can just chill out and kind of have fun.
Right. And I tell everybody, like, work at your own pace. There's going to be those people that are going to be done well before we finish. And then there's going to be that one person that is still working on their painting as I'm cleaning up, you know. And so, you know, everybody's going to work at their own pace and get things done. And I always tell them, like, if you need help, you let me know. And some people don't want help. They want to do it themselves. And I respect that.
Yeah.
You know, you need me, you call me. Otherwise, you go for it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like an accomplishment in itself for them to be able to do it on their own, right?
Yes.
And just finish it, because it's like, oh, okay, I did this.
Yes. And then for me, like, the one thing that kind of like warms my heart, I'll be scrolling on Facebook and seeing people's pictures, and they're like taking pictures in their house and my art's on their wall behind them. I was like, oh, I remember we did that one, and we did that one, we did that one. I love it. And like some of my customers have told me, like, I have a whole gallery.
Oh,
like
nice.
They're putting them up. Yeah, because that's why they're spending the time. They're making sure they look good because they're putting them up.
Yeah.
I was like, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Fun. Yeah. So awesome studio. Love what you're doing. Fantastic. Everybody needs to visit Humanity Studios. And you are like a professional artist, but you've also hired another artist too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hired Jason Langford. He's working part-time with me now.
Yeah.
And he is a cartoonist.
Okay.
So that was an added edge for me because I do some things, but like he's like cartoonist. Like he does
Yeah.
caricatures and all that kind of stuff. He has a business that he does that in. And
Wow.
so he's been able to come in and host a party. He's done one so far. And we had a really good turnout for it. With that one, he did this mashup of like Peanuts meets the Fresh
I
Prince
saw
of
that.
Bel-Air.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
So that was pretty interesting because it's like that kind of went cross-generational a little bit, you know?
Oh,
And so he did this mashup where Franklin was the Fresh Prince.
yeah.
And he chose an iconic pose, and like it was a whole bunch of fun. And so we just did like 90s music the entire night, so everybody could like sing along because everybody in here knows the lyrics. I encourage people to sing out loud. So it was a whole lot of fun.
That's
A whole lot of fun. Yeah.
So, what would you say to somebody who is maybe starting out and trying to find their way, like as an artist? Like, I don't know, they may or may not go to college for it, but they're thinking about it as a career. What would you say? What advice would you give those people?
It's as simple as it sounds. Just keep doing it. What I've learned from you is you have to make yourself do things you don't want to do sometimes. Like, as we know, I don't like to do detail, and you keep telling me just do it. And I mean, I've been doing it here lately, and I'm getting better at it, you know, but even with that, you have to just keep applying yourself to it because the more you do it, the better you get at it, you know, and as you continue to do your work, you get greater exposure, and then you end up in places that you didn't even know you could end up in.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And two, I would say, kind of playing off of that is like, let's say you try to do one thing and it doesn't work out. There's so many different ways to make art into a career, like graphic design or an art teacher or an illustrator, have a paint party business, or whatever. Whatever you want it to be, you can try different things and
Right.
See what sticks with you. And see, I think that's why one of the reasons that you are so successful at what you're doing is because you also liked giving parties and you were a party planner and you liked doing those kinds of things and you were an artist. So it just like,
Right, just
it made
together.
sense. Yeah, it was like, of course she's doing paint parties. Why didn't we know that like 10 years ago?
Right.
I was like, oh man, of course. Because I think even at one point you were like, I might want to be a party planner.
Yeah. And now I'm over here and I have to like tell myself, just because you're doing a theme party does not mean you need to go buy new decorations. And then the other side of my brain is like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You gotta have.
Thanks for talking to me on the podcast. And
absolutely.
Where can people find Humanity Studios or your art or buy your art?
It is all online. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Humanity Studios, which is HUEMANITY Studios. You can visit me on our website to check out events. It's humanitystudios.com.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Art Talk with April. For more information on this episode, join the Facebook group, The Art Lounge. Please subscribe and share. See you next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week.